Hello everyone, Turner Burner here with another video for you guys. What I want to go over is the Blademaster skill cards for Horde and Escape. I haven't done a ton of Horde with this class, so if you have something to add to what I already say in the video, comment below. That'll help, enhance this video as well, so I appreciate that. But I've done Blademaster more than any other class for Escape, by a lot actually, so I have some experience with, or a lot of experience with Operation 3. Mainly, I took a break a lot from Operation 4, and then I'm back into an Operation 5. But long story short, let's just get right into it. So the Blademaster is a melee class that cuts through enemies with shocking speed and aggression. It's more of an up close and personal class. Ultimate ability is Electro Blade. While active in any enemies struck with melee will be shocked and stunned. This is actually not accurate. There are 3 enemies I can think off the top of my head that do not get stunned by the Electro Blade in any context. Cryo Scion, Salvo Scion, and Wardens. While you're in your ultimate, they will be meleeing you, and then like if it's a Salvo Scion, they'll be trying to melee you. If it's the Cryo Scion, they'll be trying to freeze you, and if it's the Warden, they'll be trying to hit you with the Breaker Mace. So, but every other enemy off the top of my head will be shocked and stunned. So it's useful to help your teammates get out of situations or bleed out a group of enemies. The passive ability is different than the last time I made a video of this nature. So it says kills with melee or bleed damage heal half your max HP. Resist, and you also resist 30% melee damage. I believe this melee damage is a reaction to people not liking a melee character not having any melee resistance. It seems common sense, but the coalition took that away from, short range deflection used to work for ballistic damage and melee resistance. And then they took that away in Operation 4, which kind of made her weaker to melee attacks intuitively. So I think, people complained, I'm assuming, and now she has that you can resist 30% melee damage. And this is very, very effective card for, anything that melees essentially. So let's get right into the skill cards. So a lot of Blademaster cards are going to deal with, melee damage or healing from the damage you apply. So you'll see an ongoing theme here, if you haven't really looked at these cards in detail. So if you're not really interested, like if you're a person that needs to pick up a gun to get kills and you don't, as an example, you don't know how to triple combo, or you don't know how to do different, or you don't like the responsibility of a melee character has, this honestly may not be the class for you. This class is not one of the easier classes to get used to like it was in older operations. This is you kind of have to know your way around different enemies before you just use this class in Horde or Escape. So I'll try in this video to explain the cards I use for both modes, but it's still going to be an adjustment period if you were like a Foz user or other characters that are, a lot easier, like Infiltrator, things of that nature. This one it'll be some adjustment, and it will come with some frustration in the beginning. So just figure I'd get that out the way so you're not disappointed after you watch this video. But let's get right into it. So Thrill the Hunt, it says 32% resistance and forced healing near bleeding enemies. And this will go, I'll have to, show you how different cards combine with each other as I say one card, because the thing with Blademaster skill cards, a lot of these cards work in unison, so one doesn't work out without the other. So with Thrill the Hunt, it says 32 resistance and forced healing 32% resistance and force healing near bleeding enemies. If your teammates are bleeding enemies near you, you get healing from that as well. It doesn't have to be you, just as an example. So if you're running Venom Blade, which is melee damage and Venom, deals 160% of damage dealt for 5 seconds. That bleeding, that damage you dish out, will allow you to get healing from the damage you do. So you have to be an aggressive player constantly to stay alive as this class. If you're a passive player, you are going to get downed a lot because you're going to be scared of an elite drone or a scion or a warden. So you kind of have to be aggressive to make sure you get the healing and make sure that you get the health from what you do. So you're basically getting rewarded for kills. So and I know I'm going into it a lot on just the first card, but Venom Blade and Thrill of the Hunt, they work together, but also you're getting the healing from the Thrill of the Hunt, and then you're also going to get the healing from just the kill itself. So every time you get a kill, it'll heal half your max HP. How it used to work with Lahni with Thrill of the Hunt was she only got one healing before, but it was instant relative to the damage she applied. There was one instance I can think of where there was a bunch of low health juvies that maybe had only like 1 HP on them, and I would melee all of them, and I was getting no healing from them because there wasn't really any bleeding done to kill them. It was just melee kills. So I do like this change because of the fact that I can get healing on all melee kills as opposed to just bleeding related melee kills, if that makes sense. So I don't have to bleed enemy out necessarily to get healing of my max HP because of the passive. So the fact that she gets 2 healings is very useful because you get the healing from the initial bleed damage and you also get the healing from the passive. So just keep that in mind. That's something she's never had until I believe Operation 4. Okay, so short range deflection, 32% ballistic damage resistance within 5 meters. This, I don't want to say this class or this card is like mandatory necessarily, but for pretty much all of my solo runs except the Warren, I was using this card. If there's an elite drone, if there's going to be enemies such as elite drones in that map, especially like the end on my recent solo, I used short range because I knew I was going to deal with elite drones, and they have 100 bullets per clip, so I have to be able to take a certain amount of damage before getting them. You can go away with this card if you're really good at movements, but I use it because I'm not there yet, as a player. But you get resistance to damage up to 5 meters. It's kind of a nice card. Shock Chain. I find this card more useful in maps that have they don't have the shorter shorter ultimate, because she can wipe out a lot of juvies at once. Like if you compare different solo runs for my own, the Warren at the very end, about 20 juvie spawn, and I killed every single one of them in my ultimate. If you compare that to the end, my ultimate only lasts like 2 seconds because of the shorter ultimate, and I may have killed half the amount of juvies or less. So I had to deal with a lot of juvies at the LZ, which made it really harder than it was supposed to be. But because of the shorter ultimate, that's why I made it harder. So Shock Chain, it affects 6 nearby enemies that are also struck. So there's been times on the line I was able to kill like 6 scions at once in one ultimate. So this can be very, very useful to obviously maximize your kills, and also you benefit from the bleed damage on every enemy that's in Shock Chain. So also on the Surge solo run, you see me use Shock Chain a good bit of times as well. So yeah, you can just see different instances on why that card can be effective. Venom Blade you have to have this card. Absolutely have to have this card. So melee damage and Venom causes bleeding for 160% of damage, dealt for 5 seconds. So very, very good card. It's mandatory. It's what makes Blademaster relevant, because this is how Blademaster gets kills. So that's just what it is. You just need this card on. I feel like I should explain it more, but you just have to have the card on. So Venom resistance, 32% damage resistance while in Venom. So the thing with Venom resistance, it stacks. So like, let's say you're in Venom, to get kills with Venom Blade, you need to be in Venom. You have to be used to being in, and sometimes even thick Venom. So you can look at some of my, and I'll clip all the relevant solo runs relevant to this class, but the damage resistance stacks well at the passive. So you got 32% damage resistance in Venom. Then you got the passive, that's 30% melee resistant, and then you got sometimes short range, 32% damage resistance within 5 meters. So a lot of your defense will just be because you're in the Venom. So because you're Venom reliant, that makes you dominant, but in some ways that's probably the only downfall of this class, is you have to wait for Venom to do anything productive. So, but anyway, 32% damage resistance while in Venom. That's a very good card, and I'll say that's one of the mandatory ones as well. Unless you're playing Horde, because you don't get Venom at all. So ambush, kills from behind, reduce ultimate cooldown by 30 seconds. Sometimes, not all the time. I think some people will disagree, but sometimes this will give you, like if you have this card on. I had this card on the Warren because I didn't feel like I needed short range, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to use. But sometimes from just any kill, it'll give you an extra boost to get your ultimate faster. So if there's a map that you think you need your ultimate faster, this could be a good card. I know that if you grab a meat shield, it works 100% of the time. It'll give you that jump. The game thinks you snuck up on them and meat shielded them, even though you just melee comboed them in front and meat shielded them. So yeah, if you're someone who is good at meat shielding, this ambush will bump up your ultimate pretty nicely. So it's a good card. You could use it in your escape. I don't know about Horde, but I definitely know you could use it in escape. Blade Dancer is one of her new cards. It has a purple. I don't know if it's supposed to be a purple or gold card, because when I get the card, it says it's purple. But when I look right now, it's gold. But it has a purple card price. I don't know. I'm not going to overthink it. But the point is, each melee or bleed kill gives you plus 50% damage for 15 seconds. It helps your base melee damage. It does not improve the bleed, because that would just be absurd. But it does improve each melee damage. So one of the main things I've noticed of being useful is you can one melee juvies after you get a couple of kills in with bleed. So that's one of the main uses I've seen for it. I haven't seen a whole lot of other uses. I have used it in one of my Horde matches. I've used it, but overall, I think it's a good card. Like, I would take off Shock Chain for it. As an example, on I plan on doing the end again with a different spawn, so I'll probably end up using Blade Dancer instead of Shock Chain, just so I can one melee juvies. That's an option you can do for that map specifically, or you can use Blade Dancer and Shock Chain on certain maps if you're on if you want less short range, if you don't want short range deflection. It just depends. You just kind of have to just try the card, but it is nice to one melee juvies. I believe I use this card on the line as well, just to get extra melee damage. It's useful. Brutal Claw is more of a horde card. I mean, you could use it in escape, I guess, if you're someone that likes to use the claw. 50% extra damage and 25% active effects with the claw. I haven't used this card at all, but intuitively it just improves your damage while you holding the claw. I don't know if there's any tricks with like meleeing with the claw out. Would not surprise me if there was, but yeah, if you're someone who likes to use the claw in Horde mainly, you can use this card if you want to. Energy Surge is one of her new cards that I really, really like. So one of the Jingle Juvies games, I was Blademaster, and I just stood near the tap, and I was just getting, I was using Blade Dancer and Energy Surge, and you get health just from being next to it. And it's often you get health often. So if you get hit, as long as you don't like die straight away, you'll get your health back. So it's kind of like a thrill of the hunt without actually doing any kills, because you keep getting your health back as long as you are near a tap. So, and you have to just be near, within 10 meters of a tap. So if you are someone that, let's say you go out and get some kills, you can come back to the energy tap to make sure that you stay alive, or you can just lure enemies to the energy tap if you wanted to. So it just depends on how you play, really. But that's how I did it, to stay alive. So epic score boost speaks for itself. Team score increased by 35%. National Mastery, 40% extra damage and active effects. Same goes with Brutal Claw, or really any damage or gun-related damage class. If you're getting, how to explain this? If you're getting extra, if you're holding the gun, I don't know if you're getting like extra damage per se. So just keep that in mind. I'm not sure, but I do know that this card is very effective. I think a buddy of mine said it does stack with bleed. I have not tested it. You guys can test it on your own. I just, I can't give this card up for other cards, so I haven't really gotten around to testing it. So, but just from what the point of it is, I do like its value on ambush because you may not be able to use shock chain because you don't want to get a Scion. So you can use short range and, Nasher Mastery on maps with Nasher if you wanted to. Venom Run has Nasher, but you wouldn't use this card there. But there's a few maps that you could use this card on. So on the flank, 115% increased damage from behind. I don't find this card a whole lot valuable. I think Marcus has a similar card, but because of the nature of Blademaster's class, if you guys disagree, comment below. I don't find this card super useful. Deep Pockets, unless you're like a really early level Blademaster, stay away from this card as well. You really should get out of the mentality of really using your guns with this class for the most part. There's some exceptions, but for the most part, you really want to be using your blade, getting melee and bleed kills. But it says 115% increased pistol capacity for Blademaster. Mid-range deflection works similar to short range, 32% ballistic damage resistance between 5 and 10 meters. You could run short and mid-range if you just wanted more defense as opposed to the offense. That is your call. That used to be, like the ideal Lahni build, back in Operation 3, running short range and mid-range, and, 3 other cards that I'll go over later. But, so yeah, having the damage resistance could be of value there. Nimble is if you could use this card for fun, but it's not. If you're playing for series, you don't need to use this card. So 55% extra cover slot, speed, and reach. I believe if you play classic versus or arcade versus or something like that, Lahni's class slides into cover really fast. It's kind of like that, but it's not really like. It's not really a card that you would use on a master level, to put it nicely. Using Electro Blade gives 250 HP stem. So there are a few instances where you can die your ultimate. It used to be in Operation 3 until they kind of nerfed her. In Operation 3, she used to be immortal in her ultimate. I used to take direct salvo sign shots, poppers to my feet. So Shock Shield was useless. But now that she can die in her ultimate, this card can be of useful. It just depends on how you want to play it, really. So, like, if you're hypothetically speaking, if you have Shock Shield and Shock Chain, you could kill a Sentinel as it's lighting you up, maybe. But then again, it's a Sentinel, so it's hard to say it wouldn't just blast you, honestly, because those salvo related shots from Devastators, the Scion, or Sentinels are typically they typically take all your stim off in the first hit, and then they kill you in the second hit. So, but unless I haven't used this card in a while, unless it's ongoing to where you get the stem every time you lose it, then it may not be as effective when you need it to be. So it just depends. So you can try it. Let me know what you think. If you do use it, you let me know. But I haven't used this card in a couple operations since I was a low level Lahni, to be totally honest. Banana Clip, same thing with the deep pockets. Really shouldn't be using this card on Master anyway. Talon auto pistol magazine capacity increased by 115%. I mean, you really shouldn't. Don't use this card. I can't think of why you would, to be totally honest. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. Brawler, melee damage increased by 130%. If you have Blade Dancer at a higher level, I would stay away from Brawler, but it just depends on the context. So Blade Dancer, each melee or bleed kill gives you 50% extra damage up to 200%. So that can get up to 200% after a few kills. Brawler, for all kills, will be 130%. So I guess it depends on how many kills you're getting if Brawler or Blade Dancer will be worth it. So you get 130% increase versus almost 200%. But the thing is, you only start out at 50% after the first one. So I guess it just depends on how you play. If you want to do Blade Dancer or Brawler, it's totally up to you. I haven't used those. Now I'm thinking about it right now. I haven't used those cards together because I think you need short range in most instances. They may stack well together, which would be nuts. If anyone else knows, comment below. But yeah, see, let me know if Brawler and Blade Dancer stack together because that would be some really good base melee damage. But if you're going to choose between the two, I would use Blade Dancer because of how I play versus Brawler. But it's totally up to you. Efficient Executioner. Every execution drops an ammo pouch. This could be useful on maps with rejects. If you need ammo on certain maps or something like that, and there's not a lot of ammo boxes, that can be useful. But in most cases, I don't find value in this card, Efficient Executioner. So last but not least, score boost, 18% increased team score in Horde, 18% time bonus in Escape if you want to improve your score in either mode. So that is my take on Blademaster skill cards. At the end, what I'm going to do is go over example stacks for Horde and Escape that I've used. So I'm just going to slide over to that. So for Escape, it's already on it. So for Escape, what I've done is short range, Shock Chain, Venom Blade, Venom Resistance, and Thrill of the Hunt. And my most recent solo on the end, and so the end, let me think, Ice Queen, and those two, even though they have shorter ultimates, I still use Shock Chain because my bleed's so high, it still kills the enemies in my ultimate. So that's an example stack that I would use for Escape. If you're going to change something, you could take off Shock Chain for Blade Dancer. You could take off short range if you're good at movements for ambush. But in general, you need these three on all the time: Venom Blade, excuse me, Venom Resistance, and Thrill the Hunt. You need those on all the time because they work so well together. So Venom Blade and Thrill the Hunt, you do bleed damage. You get healing from the bleeding, and also your teammates, if that are bleed characters like Infiltrator, or Demolitions, or Tactician, whoever's bleeding you get healing from that as well. So that's kind of nice. So in the passive, you get you heal your half your max HP after every successful kill. So you get the initial healing, which is okay, if I'm being honest, just okay. And then you get, after the kills, where you get a lot of your healing. So it's the passive that you got to get to if you're thinking about this class. You got to hurry up and get the kills so you can get a lot of your healing. The throw the hunt's just okay, in my opinion. It used to be instant, but it's probably just okay. Some people really don't like it. So yeah, that's an example of escape. For Horde, what I have done is short range, Blade Dancer, Energy Surge, Shock Chain, and Throw the Hunt. Can't remember off the top of my head because I really don't get into Horde a lot. I forget all the perks that that are in Horde, but intuitively you don't see Venom resistance and you don't see Venom Blade on here. Those are one of the main things. So I still have Thrill the Hunt because one of the perks is Venom Blade. So you perk up Venom Blade, or it may be called something else. You perk up Blade, Bleed, and it'll allow you to get healing from the enemies you're bleeding. So, and same thing as before, Blade Dancer, that base melee damage is super nice. When you're dealing with later wave Horde and you got Juvies and you're still one melee in them. So very nice. Still run short range because I want the defense. The Energy Surge, I stay near the tap for healing. And the Shock Chain, I like to ult multiple enemies at once. So this card is borderline a must. But keep in mind, it's only useful if you have your ultimate. So you got to be getting those bleed kills to charge your ult. So that is pretty much it for Blade Dancer. If you guys want to add anything for this class, it's a lot harder to use than in previous operations, in my opinion. If you have any questions about this class, you let me know. Comment below. And as always, thanks for listening, and stay tuned. Excuse me. Stay tuned for the next video. And you guys have a good one. Peace.